To our amazing viewers at Cheating Tales Lab, we'd love to hear, which part of the world are you joining us from? Let us know. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. The Call. Michael Knight stood in his workshop, the smell of sawdust and varnish filling his lungs as he ran sandpaper across a cherrywood cabinet. Retirement had been an adjustment after 18 years with Delta Force, but working with his hands brought a different kind of peace. At 42, he was still built like the operator he'd been. Lean, efficient, dangerous when needed. His phone buzzed. Lawrence. His younger brother rarely called during work hours. Mike, something's wrong. Lawrence's voice cracked, barely controlled panic bleeding through. Emily didn't come home from school. The bus driver said she got off at the right stop, but she never made it to the house. It's been 2 hours. Michael's training kicked in instantly, emotions compartmentalized. Have you called the police? They said to wait 24 hours, that she probably went to a friend's. Mike, she's 8. She doesn't just disappear. I'm coming over. Don't touch anything in her room. Check your security cameras. Get the bus footage if you can. I'll be there in 20. He was already moving, muscle memory from hundreds of operations taking over. Kate emerged from the house as he headed to his truck, her auburn hair catching the afternoon sun. After 3 years of marriage, she could read him like a book. What happened? Emily's missing. I need to go. Kate's face went pale. She adored her niece. I'll pack a go bag. You might need to stay there. Michael paused, pulling her close. Kate Brooks had been an Army nurse when they met at Walter Reed. She understood the darkness he'd lived in and loved him anyway. I'll find her. I know you will. Just come back to me. The drive to Lawrence's house in the suburbs felt like it took forever. His brother lived in a different world than Michael. A successful cardiac surgeon, beautiful colonial home, manicured lawn. Lawrence had built the life their parents always wanted, while Michael had chosen a path that led to places without names, doing things that would never see daylight. Lawrence opened the door before Michael could knock. His brother looked like he'd aged 10 years in 2 hours, eyes red, hands shaking. His wife Melanie stood behind him, mascara streaked down her face. The police just left, Lawrence said. They took a report, but said it's too early for an Amber Alert. Too early. Our daughter is gone, and they want us to wait. Michael gripped his brother's shoulder. Show me her room. Walk me through her day. Everything. As they moved through the house, Michael's mind cataloged details. No signs of forced entry. Security system armed when Lawrence got home. Emily's backpack was gone. The bus stop was only 3 houses down. A 2-minute walk she'd made hundreds of times. Who knew she'd be alone today? Michael asked. No one specific. Melanie had surgery scheduled, and I had back-to-back patients until 5. Lawrence paused. Wait. I mentioned it at the hospital fundraiser last week. Just casual conversation about juggling schedules. Who was there? Before Lawrence could answer, his phone rang. Unknown number. They all froze. Lawrence answered on speaker. Heavy breathing filled the line. Then a man's voice, calm and educated. Dr. Knight. I have something that belongs to you. Where is she? If you've hurt her, she's unharmed. For now. But that depends entirely on your cooperation. Michael's jaw clenched. The voice had a rehearsed quality, like someone reading from a script, but trying to sound spontaneous. What do you want? Lawrence asked. $5 million. Cash. You have 48 hours. I don't have that kind of money. I'm a doctor, not. But her uncle does. Put him on. The line went silent. Michael felt his blood turn to ice. They knew. They knew exactly who he was. Lawrence's eyes went wide as he handed over the phone. Michael took it, his voice steady. I'm here. Michael Knight. Delta Force, retired. 18 years of service. 2 tours in Iraq, 3 in Afghanistan, and all those other places the government pretends you never were. The voice carried a hint of satisfaction. Your brother might not have 5 million, but your retirement package, investments, and that inheritance from your uncle's estate, you're sitting on about 7 million. I've done my homework. Someone had been digging. Deep. You've made a mistake, Michael said quietly. A laugh. I don't think so. Here's how this works. You bring the money alone to a location I'll provide. No police, no FBI, no calling in favors from your old Delta buddies. Come alone, or we send little Emily back in pieces. I'll text coordinates in 36 hours. Don't disappoint me, soldier. The line went dead. Melanie collapsed into a chair, sobbing. Lawrence looked at Michael with desperate hope. Can you get the money? I'll sell everything, This isn't about money, Michael said, his mind already working through the angles. They knew exactly when she'd be alone. They knew about my background and my finances. This was planned, targeted. He pulled out his own phone. I need to make some calls. You heard them. No police, no? Not police. Michael's eyes went cold in a way Lawrence hadn't seen since they were kids, when Michael had put 3 older boys in the hospital for bullying him. There are people who owe me favors. People who know how to be very quiet. Chapter 2. The Hunter. Kate arrived an hour later with Michael's go bag and something else, a weathered leather case she placed on Lawrence's kitchen table. Inside were items that officially didn't exist. Encrypted phones, a tablet with access to databases that would make the NSA nervous, and other tools of a trade Michael had supposedly left behind. Clay Neal called while you were talking to Lawrence, Kate said quietly. He heard through the grapevine. He's available if you need him. Clay had been Michael's spotter for 6 years, a friendship forged in blood and fire. Now he ran a private security firm in Virginia. But for Michael, he'd drop everything. Michael nodded, already connecting the encrypted tablet to a network that would route through 17 servers across 9 countries. His fingers flew across the keyboard, accessing systems he'd helped design during his final years with Delta. What are you doing? Lawrence asked, hovering anxiously. Finding out who knew enough to target us. Michael pulled up financial records, cross-referencing them with the hospital fundraiser guest list Melanie had provided. They didn't pick Emily randomly. They needed leverage, and they needed to know I could access that much money quickly. The tablet pinged. A secure message from Clay. Wheels up in 2 hours. Landing Reagan National. Address? Michael typed the reply and returned to his search. Something nagged at him. The kidnapper's voice had been too confident, too specific. This wasn't opportunistic. This was personal. Mike. Kate touched his shoulder. Lawrence's chief of surgery, Terrence Marks. Didn't you meet him at that fundraiser? Briefly. What? Because 3 months ago, Melanie mentioned he was pushing for Lawrence to invest in some medical technology startup. Lawrence declined. Michael's eyes narrowed. Melanie, tell me about Terrence Marks. Melanie wiped her tears, trying to focus. He's been chief of surgery for 2 years. Brilliant doctor, but there's always been something off about him. He's charming, but it feels calculated. Lawrence said he lost a fortune in some failed venture capital deal last year. The pieces started clicking together. Michael pulled up Mark's financial history. What little wasn't hidden behind shell corporations and offshore accounts. Red flags everywhere. Massive debts, desperate investments, a lifestyle far beyond a surgeon's salary. Does Marks know about my background? Michael asked. Lawrence nodded slowly. He asked about you at the fundraiser. Seemed really interested when I mentioned Delta Force. Said his younger brother was Army. Wanted to know about special operations selection. What's his brother's name? I don't remember. Donald, maybe? Donald Marks? Michael typed rapidly. Donald Marks. Dishonorable discharge from Army Rangers 3 years ago for assault on a superior officer. Currently employed as a security consultant. Translation. Hired muscle for anyone with cash. The tablet chimed again. Clay had sent preliminary findings. A property deed in Terrence Marks' name for a warehouse in Baltimore. Purchased through an LLC 6 months ago. The same LLC that had been making shell payments to Donald Marks. Found them, Michael said quietly. What? Lawrence leaned over. Are you sure? Not 100%, but close enough to act on. Michael started packing the tablet. Terrence Marks is desperate for money. He knows I have it. He has a brother with military experience and the willingness to do illegal work. They took Emily to force my hand. Then we call the police, Melanie said. We have evidence. We have suspicions and circumstantial data from illegal surveillance, Michael corrected. By the time the police build a case, the 48-hour deadline passes. And these people are smart enough to have contingencies. He looked at his brother. I need you to trust me. Can you do that? Lawrence's face was torn between hope and fear. Finally, he nodded. What do you need? Stay here. Act exactly like panicked parents waiting for the ransom call. Keep your phones on you at all times. Kate will stay with you. She's a better actor than either of us. And if they're watching, they'll expect me to be here strategizing. Michael moved toward the door. I have 36 hours before they send coordinates. I'm going to use every second. Kate caught him at the door, pressing her forehead to his. Don't do anything stupid. Stupid is their move. I'm just going to correct it. Chapter 3. The Trap. Clay Neal looked exactly as he had 3 years ago. 6 feet of lean muscle, shaved head, eyes that missed nothing. He met Michael at a diner 40 minutes outside D.C., sliding into the booth with a coffee already in hand. "You look like hell," Clay observed. 8-year-old niece kidnapped by someone who knows too much about me. "How should I look?" Clay's expression hardened. "What do you need?" Michael slid the tablet across. "Warehouse in Baltimore. Registered to an LLC owned by Terrence Marks, chief of surgery at my brother's hospital. His brother Donald, dishonorably discharged Ranger, is likely running the operation. They're holding Emily there, or at least, that's their staging ground. You plan on hitting it? Reconnaissance first. If she's there, we extract. If not, we find out where she is and who else is involved." Michael pulled up building schematics he'd hacked from the city planning database. 3 entrances, minimal security, industrial area. Neighbors won't hear anything unusual. Clay studied the plans. "When? Tonight. They think I'm scrambling to liquidate assets for the ransom. They won't expect me to have located them yet." "Cocky. Stupid," Michael corrected. "They knew enough to be dangerous, but not enough to understand who they're dealing with." They spent the next 4 hours preparing. Clay had equipment in his truck: night vision, suppressed weapons, breaching charges if needed. Michael reviewed everything he'd learned about the Marks brothers. Terrence was the brains, desperate and ruthless. Donald was the muscle, angry and violent. A dangerous combination, but predictable. At 2 a.m., they parked 3 blocks from the warehouse. The neighborhood was dead, abandoned factories and empty lots. Perfect for criminal activity, terrible for escape routes once authorities got involved. They moved through shadows like ghosts, years of training making them nearly invisible. The warehouse showed lights on the 2nd floor. A single guard stood outside smoking, clearly bored. Not professional security, probably one of Donald's contacts. Clay hand-signaled. Michael nodded. They split, circling the building. Michael reached the south entrance, picking the lock in seconds. Inside smelled of oil and rust. Wooden crates stacked haphazardly. A stairwell led up to the lit offices. He heard voices, multiple people, at least 3 distinct speakers. He climbed silently, each step carefully placed. At the top, a hallway with several doors. Light spilled from under one. Michael pressed against the wall, listening. "Told you this was a mistake." A man's voice, educated, stressed. "Terrence Marks. Knight isn't some civilian. He's Delta Force. What if he—" "Relax." Rougher voice, dismissive. "Donald. Delta or not, he's retired. Been playing house for 3 years. He's gone soft. Besides, we have his niece. He'll pay. And if he doesn't, then we make good on our threat. Send a finger, maybe an ear. He'll pay." Michael's vision went red, but his training held. Emotion was the enemy. He needed information. A third voice spoke, younger, nervous. "The kid keeps asking for her uncle. Says he'll come get her. She seems really confident." "Kids believe in fairy tales," Donald laughed. "Let her believe. Makes her easier to manage. Emily was here. Alive." Michael's hand moved to his weapon, but he forced himself to wait. 3 hostiles minimum, possibly more. He needed Clay's confirmation before moving. His earpiece crackled softly. Clay's voice, 2nd floor, northeast room. Visual on the girl through a window. She's alone, restrained but unharmed. 2 tangos in the adjacent room. 3 in your location makes 5 total, plus the guard outside. 6 against 2. Michael had faced worse odds. But this wasn't a military operation with rules of engagement and backup. This was his niece, and these men had threatened to mutilate a child. Michael felt the old darkness rising, the part of himself he'd worked so hard to leave behind. "Exfil route," he whispered. "Fire escape on east side leads directly to the room where the girl's being held. Could have her out in 90 seconds once we move. Marks brothers. Both in your location. Take them. I get Emily clear. We disappear before anyone knows we were here." It was clean, simple, but something felt wrong. These men were desperate, not stupid. They'd planned this carefully. So where was their backup? Where were their contingencies? Michael's instincts screamed warning. This felt too easy. He keyed his mic, hold position. Something's off. Then he heard it. A phone ringing inside the office. Terrence answered. "Yes? What do you mean there's someone outside? Check the cameras, you idiot." Footsteps pounded. Shouts erupted. The element of surprise evaporated. Michael made a split-second decision. Clay, get Emily. Now. I'll cover you. What about you? I'll be right behind you. Go. Michael kicked the door open, weapon raised. 3 men spun toward him. Terrence in an expensive suit now crumpled and stained with sweat. Donald reaching for a gun on the desk, and a third man Michael didn't recognize. Nobody move, Michael said calmly. This can end quietly, or it can end badly. Your choice. Donald's hand kept moving. Michael shot him in the shoulder, suppressed weapon making barely a whisper. Donald screamed, collapsing. I said don't move. Michael's eyes were ice. Where's my niece? Terrence raised his hands, face pale. She's unharmed, I swear. This wasn't supposed to. Shut up. Michael moved closer. Who else is involved? Who else knows about this? The third man bolted for a back door. Michael let him go, one less hostile to manage. He heard Clay's voice in his ear. Package secured. We're clear. Get out of there. On my way. Michael looked at Terrence. You made a mistake tonight. A big one. I'm taking Emily home. But this isn't over. Not even close. He was gone before Terrence could respond, moving through the building like smoke. Outside, Clay had Emily wrapped in a blanket in the back of the truck. She was crying but alive, unhurt. Michael climbed in beside her. Hey, sweetheart. I told you I'd come get you. Emily threw her arms around him, sobbing. I knew you would. I told them my uncle was a superhero. Michael held her close, feeling the adrenaline drain away, replaced by something deeper, a cold, calculated fury. He'd gotten Emily back, but the Marx brothers would face consequences. The question was, how far was he willing to go? As they drove away, Michael's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Smart move, soldier. But you only won the battle. The war just started. Michael stared at the message, realization dawning. This wasn't over. It had never been about the money. And Terrence Marx wasn't the mastermind. Someone else was pulling the strings. Chapter 4. The Revelation. The reunion at Lawrence's house was tearful and chaotic. Melanie clutched Emily like she'd never let go. Lawrence kept checking her over despite Emily insisting she was fine, and Kate's relief was palpable. But Michael stood apart, his mind churning through the implications of that text message. Clay pulled him aside. You saw it too. Terrence was scared. Too scared. He's desperate for money, but that level of fear. Michael shook his head. Someone has leverage over him. Someone who knew we'd find that warehouse. A setup? Partial one. They expected me to do exactly what I did. Locate Emily and extract her. But why make it that easy? Michael pulled out the encrypted tablet. Unless the kidnapping was never the endgame. Kate joined them, her nurse's instincts reading his tension. Michael, what's wrong? Emily's safe. For now. He showed her the text. Someone wanted me to find her. They wanted to prove they could get to my family whenever they wanted. That's insane. Who would? Michael's tablet pinged with an incoming encrypted call. He'd given that number to exactly 3 people, all former Delta teammates. He answered. The voice that came through made his blood freeze. Hello, Knight. It's been a long time. Colonel Austin Crawford, Michael's former commanding officer. The man who'd recruited him into Delta Force, trained him, turned him into one of the deadliest operators in U.S. history. Also the man Michael had testified against 3 years ago for war crimes in Yemen. Unauthorized executions of civilians, torture of prisoners, theft of recovered intelligence assets worth millions. Crawford had been dishonorably discharged, stripped of his pension, facing federal prosecution. Then he disappeared before trial, rumored to have fled to South America with classified intel to sell. Crawford, Michael said flatly. You're supposed to be in Venezuela. Was. Boring place. I decided to come home. But the army isn't exactly rolling out welcome mats, thanks to your testimony. Crawford's voice carried an edge of controlled rage. Did you enjoy destroying my career, Knight? 25 years of service, poof. Gone. All because you suddenly grew a conscience. Michael kept his voice level. You executed 12 civilians in Yemen, including children. You tortured prisoners for fun, not intel. You stole classified materials. I did what was right. You did what was sanctimonious. And now you're going to pay for it. The kidnapping. That was you. The kidnapping was a test. To see if you still had your edge, or if retirement had made you soft. Congratulations, you passed. You found Emily in under 12 hours, extracted her cleanly. Very impressive. But here's the thing, Knight. I don't want your money. I want your suffering. Kate's face went white. Clay moved closer, listening. What do you want, Crawford? 3 years ago, you took everything from me. My career, my reputation, my freedom. So I'm going to take everything from you. Your family, your peace, your life. One piece at a time. And you won't be able to stop me because I've learned from your playbook. I'm invisible, I'm patient, and I'm very, very angry. Touch my family again, and what? You'll kill me? I'm counting on it. Because when you do, when you finally snap and hunt me down, you'll prove you're exactly the monster I trained you to be. Not some reformed hero, but a killer who only knows how to solve problems with violence. Crawford laughed. The kidnapping was just the opening move. Emily's safe now, but for how long? A week? A month? You'll spend every moment waiting for the next attack. And it will come, night, when you least expect it. The line went dead. Michael stood frozen, pieces clicking into horrible place. Crawford had orchestrated everything, approaching Terrence Marks with his financial desperation, using Donald as muscle, engineering a scenario that would force Michael back into operator mode. It was psychological warfare at its finest. Who's Crawford? Lawrence asked, having caught enough of the conversation to be terrified. Michael explained, watching his brother's face drain of color. So this isn't over? We can't go to the police. Crawford has classified intel he's been holding as insurance. If he's captured, it gets released to our enemies. The government has a standing order, locate but don't apprehend. Too risky. Michael's jaw clenched. He's essentially untouchable by official channels. But not by you, Clay said quietly. Michael looked at Kate, seeing the fear and determination in her eyes. She'd known when she married him that his past might come calling. She'd never wavered. I need to end this, Michael said. Permanently. But I can't do it the military way. There are no rules of engagement here. What are you saying? Lawrence looked between them. I'm saying Crawford wants a war. He's going to get one. Michael's voice went cold. But it'll be fought on my terms, not his. Chapter 5, The Network. Over the next 3 days, Michael assembled a team. Not officially. Nothing that could be traced or documented. Just favors called in, old debts collected, men who owed him their lives and would follow him into hell. Clay was first. Then came Isaac Gleason, an intelligence analyst who'd left the NSA after discovering his skills were better monetized in the private sector. Isaac could track anyone, anywhere, given enough time and coffee. Jake Lynch arrived from Texas, a former Marine sniper who'd worked joint operations with Michael in Afghanistan. Jake didn't ask questions, just showed up with his rifle case and a grim smile. The last addition was unexpected. Kenneth Day, an FBI agent who'd investigated Crawford's war crimes. Kenneth had been pulled off the case when Crawford disappeared, but he'd never stopped hunting him. When Michael reached out, Kenneth took 3 days of personal leave and drove straight to Virginia. They gathered in Michael's workshop, the space transformed into an operations center. Isaac had set up monitoring equipment that would make the CIA jealous. Maps covered the walls, tracking Crawford's known associates and possible locations. Crawford's smart, Kenneth said, studying the intelligence. He stayed off-grid completely. No credit cards, no phone calls, nothing. He's living like a ghost. Everyone leaves traces, Isaac countered, fingers flying across keyboards. Crawford has an ego. He'll reach out to old contacts eventually, and when he does, I'll find him. Michael studied a photo of Crawford, a hard-faced man in his 50s, gray hair, buzzed military short, eyes that had seen too much and enjoyed it. He'll contact me again. That text was an opening. He wants psychological warfare, which means sustained contact. So we wait. Jake sounded disappointed. We prepare. Crawford knows how I operate, but he doesn't know about all of you. That's our advantage. Michael pointed to the map. He'll have a base of operations somewhere within a 200-mile radius. Close enough to strike at my family, far enough for safety. Isaac, focus on that area. Look for recent property rentals, unusual purchases, anything that doesn't fit. On it, Kate brought in coffee, her presence steadying. She'd taken leave from the hospital to stay close to family. Lawrence called. He fired Terrence Marks today. Police questioned him about Emily's kidnapping, but Terrence lawyered up immediately. Crawford will cut ties with Marks, Michael predicted. Loose ends are liabilities. We need to get to Terrence before Crawford does. Kenneth nodded. I can bring him in for questioning. Federal jurisdiction based on the kidnapping crossing state lines. We might flip him. Do it. But be careful. Crawford's watching. Michael turned to Clay. I need you running counter-surveillance on my family. Lawrence, Melanie, Emily, Kate, they're all targets until this ends. Clay's face was grim. Already on it. I've got people rotating shifts, invisible coverage. The meeting continued late into the night, planning contingencies for scenarios Michael didn't want to imagine. Every strategic move required thinking 3 steps ahead, because Crawford would be doing the same. Around midnight, Isaac's computer chimed. Got something. Terrence Mark's phone just went active after being dark for 2 days. He's at a hotel in Richmond. Kenneth was already moving. I'll bring him in. Not alone, Michael said. Crawford might be expecting that. Jake, go with him. If this is a trap, I want someone who can shoot back. They left within minutes. Michael watched them go, feeling the weight of command settling back onto his shoulders. He'd sworn he was done with this. The planning, the violence, the constant calculation of acceptable losses. But Crawford had made it personal. And if there was one thing Michael Knight was good at, it was finishing what others started. Kate touched his hand. You're doing it again. Shutting down, going to that cold place. It's the only way I know how to protect you. I know. Just don't lose yourself completely. I married Michael, not the operator. He pulled her close, breathing in her scent, lavender and antiseptic, comfort and reality. I promise. When this is over, I'm done for good. You said that 3 years ago. This time I mean it. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Your friends just walked into a trap. Richmond Hotel, room 237. You have 15 minutes before it goes bad. Come alone or they die. See, Michael's heart rate didn't spike. Training kept him calm even as fury ignited in his chest. Crawford was watching, always watching. He showed Kate the message. Her face went pale. It's a trap for you two. Probably. But Kenneth and Jake don't know what they're walking into. He grabbed his gear. Call Clay. Have him run backup, but stay invisible. I'll handle Crawford. Michael, I have to go. They're my responsibility. He was out the door before she could argue. Truck engine roaring to life. Richmond was 40 minutes away. He had to make it in 20. Chapter 6. The Confrontation. Michael arrived at the Richmond Hotel with 3 minutes to spare, parking in the alley behind the building. He'd called Kenneth en route with a coded warning, but there'd been no response. Either they'd already been taken or they were maintaining radio silence. The hotel was mid-tier, anonymous, the kind of place where people paid cash and didn't ask questions. Perfect for Crawford's purposes. Michael entered through the service entrance, moving silently through the stairwell. Second floor, room 237. He listened at the door, hearing muffled voices. At least 2 people, maybe 3. He tested the handle. Unlocked. Amateur hour, or Crawford being cocky. Michael pushed the door open, weapon ready. The room was empty except for a laptop on the bed, screen showing a live video feed. Kenneth and Jake sat bound to chairs in what looked like a warehouse. Very much alive, but clearly captive. Standing between them was Austin Crawford, looking exactly as Michael remembered. Hard, competent, dangerous. Right on time. Crawford's voice came through the laptop speakers. I knew you couldn't resist playing hero. It's in your DNA. Let them go. Your fight is with me. True. But where's the fun in direct confrontation? I'm teaching you a lesson, Knight. About consequences. About how your actions ripple outward, hurting people you care about. Michael studied the video feed, looking for identifying details. The warehouse was generic, but he caught a glimpse through a window. Industrial area, elevated highway visible in the background. Somewhere in the greater Richmond area. You wanted my attention, Michael said calmly. You have it. What's next? Next, you make a choice. I'm sending you coordinates. You come alone, unarmed, ready to surrender yourself to me. Or I kill your friends here. Crawford gestured to Kenneth and Jake. And then I move on to your family. Lawrence, Melanie, sweet little Emily, and finally Kate. Michael's expression didn't change, but his mind raced. Crawford was trying to provoke an emotional response, to make him reactive instead of strategic. Classic psychological warfare. You won't kill them, Michael said. You need leverage. Dead hostages don't control me. Crawford smiled. Smart. You're right. I won't kill them yet. But I will hurt them. Badly. Permanently. Unless you surrender in the next hour. The laptop screen went black. A text message arrived with coordinates. An industrial park 15 miles south of Richmond. Michael immediately called Clay. Crawford has Kenneth and Jake at an industrial park. I'm going in, but I need you running parallel operations. Find that location from the video feed I'm sending now. Approach from the blind side. Get them out while Crawford's focused on me. Roger that. How dirty can this get? As dirty as it needs to be. Crawford's a war criminal. He's not walking away from this. Michael drove to the coordinates, mind running through scenarios. Crawford wanted him emotional, desperate, willing to trade himself for his friends. But Michael hadn't survived 18 years of special operations by being predictable. He arrived at the industrial park just as the sun began to set, casting long shadows across abandoned buildings. The coordinates led to a warehouse at the back of the complex, isolated and perfect for what Crawford had planned. Michael parked and got out, hands clearly visible. He'd left his weapons in the truck. Crawford would be watching for treachery. "Crawford," he called out. "I'm here. Alone. Let's talk." Movement in the warehouse doorway. Crawford emerged, flanked by two men Michael didn't recognize. Hired muscle, probably former military. Crawford held a pistol loosely, confidently. Michael Knight. The hero. The man who destroyed my life over some dead civilians in a war zone. Crawford's voice dripped contempt. "You really thought you were doing the right thing, didn't you? They were innocent. You executed them for sport. They were collateral damage in a war with no rules. But you? You climbed on your moral high horse and ruined me. Now we're going to see how moral you really are." Crawford nodded to his men. They moved toward Michael, pulling zip ties from their pockets. Michael didn't resist as they bound his wrists behind his back. Every second bought was a second for Clay to position. "Where are Kenneth and Jake?" Michael asked. "Inside. Alive. For now." Crawford stepped closer. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to kneel down, and I'm going to put a bullet in your head. Just like you put a bullet in my career. Your friends will watch. They'll tell the world what happened. And your family will spend the rest of their lives knowing you died because you couldn't keep your mouth shut 3 years ago." Michael met Crawford's eyes. "You think killing me ends this? My team knows where we are. They're already moving. You'll never make it out of here." Crawford laughed. "Bluffing doesn't suit you, Knight. I've been watching you for months. I know exactly who you called, where they are, what they're doing. Your friend Clay is still 30 minutes out. By the time he arrives, this will be over." Michael smiled coldly. "You're not as smart as you think you are." The first gunshot came from an unexpected angle, the roof of the adjacent warehouse. Jake Lynch, somehow free, firing his rifle with lethal precision. One of Crawford's men dropped instantly. Chaos erupted. The second guard raised his weapon, but Clay appeared from inside the warehouse, taking him down with a suppressed shot. Michael dropped to his knees, rolling as Crawford fired at him, the bullet whizzing past his head. His bound hands made him vulnerable, but he'd trained for this scenario hundreds of times. He swept Crawford's legs, sending the older man crashing down. Kenneth emerged from the warehouse, zip ties cut, his FBI training evident in his controlled movements. He kicked Crawford's gun away, covering him with a weapon he'd clearly taken from one of the guards. "It's over, Crawford," Kenneth said. "You're under arrest for kidnapping, attempted murder, and a dozen other federal charges." Crawford looked at Michael, hatred burning in his eyes. "This isn't over. You know it isn't. I'll get out. I'll come back, and I'll—" "No," Michael said quietly. "You won't." He looked at Kenneth. "How long before your backup arrives?" "I didn't call any. Officially, I'm on leave. This was never an FBI operation." Kenneth's expression was grim. "Which means there's no record of me being here." The implication hung in the air. Crawford saw it too, fear replacing hatred for the first time. "You can't," Crawford said. "You're the good guys. The heroes. You don't execute prisoners." Michael cut his zip ties on a piece of sharp metal protruding from a crate. He stood, looking down at the man who'd tried to destroy his family. "You're right. I don't execute prisoners." Michael turned away. "Jake, Clay, make sure he gets to federal custody. Every charge documented, every witness statement recorded. Crawford's going to spend the rest of his life in a supermax prison, thinking about what he lost." Crawford's face twisted with rage. "I'll get out. I have leverage, I have." "You have nothing," Kenneth interrupted. "The classified intel you stole? We recovered it from your storage unit this morning. Isaac tracked your digital footprint to a facility in Baltimore. It's already been returned to the Pentagon. You're just another criminal now." The fight went out of Crawford. He slumped, defeated. Michael walked away, feeling the weight lift from his shoulders. He'd won, but not the way Crawford expected. Not with violence. but with patience, strategy, and turning the enemy's plans against him. Clay caught up to him at the truck. That was cleaner than I expected. Crawford wanted me to become a monster. I refused to give him that satisfaction. Michael looked back at the warehouse. He'll spend decades in prison knowing he failed. That's a better revenge than any bullet. His phone rang. Kate. It's done, Michael said before she could ask. Crawford's in custody. It's over. Her relief was palpable through the phone. Come home. On my way. But even as he drove away, Michael knew the truth. It wasn't really over. It never would be completely. The darkness he'd lived in had a way of finding him, no matter how far he ran. The difference now was that he had people worth fighting for. And that made all the difference. Chapter 7. The Aftermath. The following week was a blur of federal investigations, witness statements, and endless debriefings. Crawford had been remanded to federal custody, facing charges that would ensure he'd never see freedom again. Terrence Marks, faced with conspiracy to commit kidnapping charges, had taken a plea deal and was testifying against everyone involved. Michael sat in Lawrence's living room, Emily curled up next to him watching cartoons. The 8-year-old had bounced back remarkably well, though Melanie had scheduled therapy sessions to help process the trauma. Uncle Mike. Emily looked up at him with serious eyes. Why did those bad men take me? Michael considered lying, giving her a sanitized version. But Emily deserved honesty. Because someone I used to work with was angry at me. He wanted to hurt me by scaring our family. But you saved me. I did. And I always will. I know. She snuggled closer. You're like a superhero. Superheroes are make-believe, sweetheart. I'm just someone who doesn't give up when people I love need help. Lawrence entered with coffee, looking more relaxed than he had in weeks. The hospital board had issued a formal apology for Terrence Marks' involvement, and Lawrence had been given a sabbatical with pay to spend time with family. Kate called. Lawrence said, she'll be here for dinner, bringing her famous lasagna. Michael smiled. Life was slowly returning to normal, or whatever passed for normal in their world. His phone buzzed. Isaac Gleason, the intelligence analyst. Michael answered. Got something interesting, Isaac said without preamble. Been digging through Crawford's finances and communications. Found something you need to see. What? Crawford wasn't working alone. He had a partner, someone who provided funding and intelligence. I can't identify them yet, but the communication pattern suggests someone with serious resources and a personal grudge against you. Michael's blood went cold. Show me everything you have. Sending encrypted files now. But Knight? Whoever this is, they're better hidden than Crawford. This might not be over. The call ended. Michael stared at his phone, feeling the brief peace shatter. Kate arrived an hour later, reading his tension immediately. What happened? He explained about Isaac's discovery. Kate set down the lasagna, her face troubled. Another enemy? Michael, when does this end? I don't know. We can't live like this. Always looking over our shoulders, waiting for the next threat. I know. Michael pulled her close. But I can't ignore this. If someone else is out there, then we deal with it. Together. But not tonight. Kate's voice was firm. Tonight, we have dinner with family. We pretend everything is normal. We remember why we're fighting in the first place. She was right. Michael forced himself to compartmentalize, to set aside the tactical planning and just be present. Dinner was loud and chaotic, Emily chattering about school, Melanie sharing hospital gossip, Lawrence attempting to grill steaks, and nearly setting off the smoke alarm. For a few hours, Michael was just a husband, a brother, an uncle. It felt good. Later, as he and Kate drove home, she said quietly, I'm scared. Me too. But I'm not leaving. Whatever's coming, we face it together. Michael squeezed her hand. I don't deserve you. Probably not. But you're stuck with me anyway. They arrived home to find Clay sitting on their porch, expression grim. We need to talk, Clay said. Isaac sent his findings to me too. I ran some additional searches. Knight, the person funding Crawford? I think I know who it is. They moved inside, Kate making coffee while Clay pulled up files on his laptop. Remember Yemen? The operation that went sideways, the one where Crawford committed the war crimes. Michael nodded. 17 of us went in. 12 came back. Crawford executed the civilians. I reported him. Right. But there was someone else involved. Someone who was also implicated but never charged. Clay pulled up a photo. Colonel Gary Norman. He was Crawford's second in command. He retired quietly after the investigation started, before he could be formally charged. Michael stared at the photo, memories flooding back. Norman had been ruthless, efficient, loyal to Crawford above all else. Where is he now? That's the problem. He disappeared 2 years ago. No official records, no paper trail. But his financial patterns matched the funding Crawford received. And there's this. Clay pulled up a surveillance photo from 3 weeks ago, a grainy image of a man watching Lawrence's house from a parked car. It was Norman. He's been watching us, Michael said slowly, planning his own move. Crawford was just the opening act. Norman's the real threat. Kate's face had gone pale. How do we fight someone we can't find? We make him come to us, Michael said, his mind already working through the angles. Norman's patient, careful, but he has one weakness, the same one Crawford had. Pride. He thinks he's smarter than everyone else. What are you suggesting? Clay asked. We set a trap. Use ourselves as bait. Make Norman think he has an opening, then close it before he can act. Michael looked at Kate. But it's going to be dangerous. For all of us. Kate set her jaw. Then we better make sure it works. Chapter 8. The Gambit. The plan took shape over the next 48 hours. Michael would appear to let his guard down, creating an opening for Norman to strike. Meanwhile, the team would be positioned to intercept him. The lure. Michael announced he was taking Kate on a weekend trip to a cabin in the Shenandoah Valley. Isolated, vulnerable, perfect for an attack. Lawrence and his family would stay at a hotel under police protection, removing them as potential targets. Isaac set up surveillance equipment around the cabin, hidden cameras and motion sensors that would alert them to any approach. Jake positioned himself on a nearby ridge with a clear sight line to the cabin. Clay would be inside a concealed position in the cabin's basement. Kenneth coordinated with his FBI contacts, ready to move the moment they had Norman in custody. Friday evening, Michael and Kate drove to the cabin, making no effort to hide their route or conceal their location. They wanted Norman to find them. The cabin was rustic, isolated, surrounded by dense forest. Perfect defensively, but also perfect for ambush. Kate checked the windows while Michael swept for bugs. They found 3. Norman was definitely watching. He's good, Kate admitted. These weren't here when we arrived. He's had years to prepare. But so have we. Michael activated his comms. All units, sound off. Clay, basement position secure. Jake, overwatch established. Good visibility. Isaac, surveillance active. Perimeter sensors online. Kenneth, FBI tactical team on standby, 15 minutes out. Michael and Kate settled in, maintaining the appearance of a normal evening. They cooked dinner, talked about meaningless things, acted like a couple on vacation. At 11:47 p.m., the perimeter sensors triggered. Isaac's voice, movement, south approach, single target, moving tactically. Michael's pulse quickened, but he kept his exterior calm. Visual confirmation? Working on it. Got him. It's Norman. Armed, night vision, professional approach. ETA to cabin, for minutes. Michael looked at Kate. This was the moment. Remember the plan. Stay in character until he's inside, then we take him. Kate nodded, fear and determination warring in her eyes. They moved to the bedroom, staging it to look like they were preparing for sleep. Michael positioned himself near the door, weapon concealed under a pillow. 3 minutes. 2 minutes. 1 minute. The front door lock clicked, Norman picking it, quiet and professional. Michael heard footsteps, light and controlled. Norman was good, but Michael was better. The bedroom door opened slowly. A figure in tactical gear, weapon raised, night vision goggles glowing faintly. Don't move. Norman's voice was cold, professional. Hands where I can see them. Michael raised his hand slowly. Kate gasped, playing her part perfectly. Colonel Norman, Michael said calmly. Been expecting you. Norman tilted his head. Have you? Then you know why I'm here. To finish what Crawford started. Revenge for Yemen. Not revenge. Justice. You destroyed good men for doing their jobs. Crawford, me, others who understood that war isn't won by following rules. Norman's weapon never wavered. You were always weak, Knight. Too worried about civilians, about optics. That's why you never made colonel. Or maybe I just had a conscience. Conscience is a luxury in war. One I can't afford. Norman gestured with his weapon. Your wife's going to watch you die, just like you watched those civilians in Yemen. Then I'm going to disappear, and she'll spend the rest of her life knowing it's your fault. Except you made the same mistake Crawford did, Michael said. You assumed I'd come here unprepared. Norman's eyes narrowed. You're bluffing. Am I? Michael smiled. Clay now. The basement door exploded open, Clay emerging with weapon raised. Norman spun, but Jake's voice came through a loudspeaker from outside. Drop the weapon. You're in my crosshairs. Move and you're dead. Norman froze, calculating odds. He was outnumbered, outmaneuvered. It's over, Norman, Michael said, retrieving his own weapon from under the pillow. FBI's on the way. You're going to spend the rest of your life in prison, just like Crawford. Norman's face twisted with rage. You think this ends here? There are others. People who remember Yemen, who want payback. You'll never be safe. Maybe not. But you'll be in a cage, knowing you failed. Michael nodded to Clay. Secure him. Clay moved in, zip-tying Norman's hands with practiced efficiency. The colonel didn't resist. He was too professional to waste energy on futile gestures. Kenneth arrived 20 minutes later with the FBI tactical team. Norman was read his rights, processed, and taken into custody without incident. As the FBI convoy pulled away, Michael stood on the cabin's porch with Kate, watching the taillights disappear into the darkness. Is it really over this time? Kate asked. I think so. Norman was the last connection to Yemen. With him and Crawford both in custody, the threat dies. And if you're wrong? Michael pulled her close. Then we deal with it. Together. Like we always do. But even as he said it, Michael felt the familiar weight of unfinished business. Norman's words echoed in his mind. There are others. How many others? How deep did the conspiracy go? Chapter 9. The Resolution. 3 months later, Michael stood in federal court, watching as both Crawford and Norman received their sentences. Life imprisonment without parole, to be served in separate maximum security facilities. Crawford looked broken, defeated. Norman remained stoic, but the defeat in his eyes was unmistakable. Kenneth Day had built an airtight case. The evidence was overwhelming. Kidnapping, attempted murder, conspiracy, weapons charges. Neither man would ever taste freedom again. As the judge's gavel fell, Michael felt something shift inside him. Not triumph, exactly. Just closure. Outside the courthouse, Lawrence and Melanie waited with Emily. The little girl ran to Michael, hugging him fiercely. Is it over? Lawrence asked. Really over? Yes, Michael said, and meant it. They're both going away forever. The people they worked with have scattered. It's done. Kate joined them, slipping her hand into Michael's. She'd taken the day off from the hospital to be here, to witness the end of the nightmare that had consumed their lives. What now? Melanie asked. Now. Michael looked at his family, his brother, his sister-in-law, his niece, his wife. The people who made life worth living. Now we go home. We live our lives. We stop looking over our shoulders. They had lunch together, a celebratory meal that felt like a reclaiming of normalcy. Emily chattered about her upcoming birthday party. Melanie discussed her plans to return to work. Lawrence mentioned a medical conference in Boston. Ordinary conversation. Ordinary concerns. It felt wonderful. Later, as Michael and Kate drove home, she said, I'm proud of you. For what? For not becoming what they wanted you to be. Crawford, Norman, they tried to turn you into a monster. You refused. I had help. Michael squeezed her hand. You kept me grounded. Reminded me why I was fighting. So what's next for us? More carpentry? Early retirement? A vacation somewhere without cell service? Michael laughed. All of the above. I'm done with the tactical life. Done with enemies and conspiracies and midnight operations. I just want to build furniture, annoy my brother, spoil my niece, and grow old with you. Sounds perfect. They arrived home to find a package on their doorstep. No return address, just Michael's name in neat block letters. Michael's training kicked in immediately. He scanned for threats, checked for wires or suspicious weight. The package appeared clean. Inside was a single item, a photograph from Yemen, 7 years old. Michael and his Delta team, posing after a successful operation. All 17 men smiling, victorious. On the back, written in precise handwriting, Yemen remembers. So do we. Michael's blood ran cold. He flipped the photo over again, studying the faces. Crawford and Norman were there, but so were others. Men who'd survived the investigation, who'd escaped punishment, who'd disappeared into the shadows. How many were left? How many still wanted revenge? Kate saw his expression. Michael? What is it? He showed her the photo and the message. Her face went pale. There are more, she said quietly. This isn't over. Michael stood there, holding the photograph, feeling the weight of past decisions and future threats. He could run, could take Kate and disappear into anonymity. But that would mean abandoning Lawrence, Emily, the life they'd built. Or he could face it, again, and again, as many times as necessary. He pulled out his phone, calling Clay. "Need the team again," Michael said. "We've got a problem." Clay's response was immediate. "When and where?" "My workshop. Tomorrow morning. We need to identify everyone from Yemen who might be holding a grudge." On it, Michael ended the call and looked at Kate, seeing the fear and determination warring in her eyes. "I'm sorry," he said. "I thought this was over." "It's never over, is it?" Kate's voice wasn't accusing, just resigned. "This is your life. Our life. There will always be another enemy, another threat. I can leave. We can disappear." "No." Kate cut him off. "We don't run. We don't hide. We face it together, we end it, and we come out stronger." She smiled, fierce and beautiful. "That's what we do." Michael pulled her close, feeling love and gratitude wash over him. "I don't deserve you. You really don't. But you're stuck with me anyway." That night, Michael sat in his workshop, studying the photograph. 17 faces stared back at him from the past. 5 were dead, casualties of war. 2 were in prison, Crawford and Norman. That left 10 unaccounted for. 10 men who might be planning revenge. Or 10 men who'd moved on with their lives, wanting nothing to do with old grudges. The only way to know was to find them, one by one, and determine the threat level. It would take time, resources, a level of commitment that meant putting his quiet life on hold once again. But looking at the photograph, at the younger version of himself smiling in ignorant bliss, Michael made a decision. He would end this. Not with violence or revenge, but with closure. He would find every man from that photograph, assess the threat, neutralize it if necessary, and finally, put Yemen to rest. Not for himself. For Kate, for Lawrence, for Emily, for everyone who'd been dragged into his past. Clay arrived early the next morning, followed by Isaac, Jake, and Kenneth. They gathered around the photograph, studying faces, running names through databases. "This could take months," Isaac warned. "These guys are ghosts. If they don't want to be found, then we make them surface," Michael interrupted. "We put out feelers, let it be known I'm looking. Some will come willingly to talk. Others," he shrugged, "we'll cross that bridge when we get there." "And if they come looking for you first?" Kenneth asked. Michael's smile was cold, dangerous, the smile of a Delta Force operator who'd survived 18 years of the world's worst combat zones. "Then they'll learn the same lesson Crawford and Norman did. I protect what's mine, and I never, ever quit." He looked around at his team, these men who'd followed him into hell time and again. "One more mission," Michael said. "We identify every threat from Yemen, we neutralize it, and then we're done. Permanently. No more enemies, no more shadows from the past. We earn our peace." Clay raised his coffee cup in a toast. "To earning peace." They echoed him, a brotherhood forged in violence, seeking an end to the endless cycle. Michael knew it wouldn't be easy. Knew there would be setbacks, dangers, moments when the darkness threatened to consume him. But he also knew he wouldn't face it alone. He had Kate, his anchor to humanity. He had his team, brothers in all but blood. He had family worth fighting for. And he had something Crawford and Norman never understood, a reason beyond revenge to keep fighting. Hope. As the team began their work, cataloging threats and planning operations, Michael stepped outside. The morning sun was warm, birds singing, ordinary life continuing all around him. Somewhere out there, enemies plotted. But here, in this moment, Michael Knight was just a man standing in his driveway, coffee in hand, choosing to face another day. The photograph from Yemen sat on his workshop table, a reminder of where he'd been. But when he looked toward the future, toward Kate in the kitchen window, toward the life they were building together, Michael saw something more powerful than any threat. He saw a reason to win. And Michael Knight always found a way to win. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.